Whoop. Oh, fuck. There goes my water supply. Fuck me. Fucking hell, I had a whole bottle of this shit and now I've ruined it. Good evening, hope everyone's doing well. I might struggle a little bit now. After all, we humans were 70% water. Who said you're 70% fat? Shut up, you. I'm not built any differently from anyone else. I think next time I'll just stick to pulling it out of my pocket rather than trying to throw it in the air and catch it. It'd be slick. But that's not why you called. I want to talk about what happened in Ballymena. But before I do that, I'm going to be linking Freedom Dad in the description below, as he was down at that protest turned riot, so he has more first-hand experience of what went on down there. I suppose the first thing I better do is say that I do not condone the violence, I do not condone the attacking of houses and what have you that happened, but I completely understand why they did it. And it's not like the Irish government haven't been given fair warning about this shit. The Irish government could have done something about this immigration issue that was occurring in Northern Ireland. Instead, they chose to side with diversity and, of course, immigrants going out of their way to violate a teenage girl, to which 2 Romanian-speaking teenagers are now sitting in court. Basically, what's going to happen? So what can you expect when shit like this happens? This is basically Ireland's version of Southport. And before anybody says it's a similar situation to the LA riots, let me just remind you that those LA people, they started attacking with Molotov cocktails. The leftoids had an absolute meltdown because Donald Trump is sitting in power right now. And this is how they want to deal with this shit, because obviously there are some people who have an issue with the immigration policy in the US. The difference here is that it is people who claim to be Mexican when they really just have only maybe Mexican heritage at best, and they're going out of their way to attack innocent people. Whereas the people in Ballymena are going out of their way to target houses and what have you because they're sick and tired of foreign immigration coming into their country and seeing the consequences of what happens. I mean, we're seeing children being violated in the worst way possible. I don't think the two even come close in comparison, which is why Donald Trump is going out of his way to send about 800 Marines into LA to basically take out the trash. Meanwhile, in Ballymena, there were substantial casualties going on in there. There were dozens of officers and what have you getting injured on the back of this riot. And I'll always be clear on this. I don't support violence against anyone or anything. But what I will say is that the police and the government have only got themselves to blame for this happening. This is what happens when frustrations build and people in the police and the government don't do their job. If the two-tier policing society are not going to do their job, then don't be surprised if the national people do it for them. And as I said, while I don't accept the way they've behaved, I will completely stand by the people of Ireland. I will stand by those people who are quite rightly pissed off at an incompetent police force and an incompetent government. All they needed to do was do their job and ensure that people would be safe, and any illegal that commits a crime gets deported just like that, and these problems would have gone just like that. But we all know for these lefty Marxist governments, that's about as easy as trying to play the Stradivarius. I said it about this country, and I will say it about Ireland as well. When these riots happen, it won't be the people doing it to blame. It'll be at the hands of the establishment and the two-tier policing society that these two, Ireland and the United Kingdom, have created. If you go treating your own citizens like second-class citizens while trying to roll out the red carpet for the sakes of didn't earn it, sorry, diversity, equality, inclusion, or maybe I was right first time, then you can't be truly surprised if these people decide they've had enough and they're going to take matters into their own hands and deliver out what is called vigilante justice, the sort of thing you might expect in a place like Argentina or Brazil or even Mexico. And this is a warning to the Irish government. If you don't do something about the problems that concerned parents and concerned patriots have, this kind of thing is going to happen again. And when it does happen again, once again, the only people to blame will be you in the government and the two-tier policing society. This is people taking robust action and declaring they have fucking had enough. But what do you think the media... Oh, hello! What do you think the media is going to do, of course, with this story in Ireland? Of course they're going to label them as far right. Because obviously they don't have anything else other than name tags. And people are going to take about as much notice of it as a parking ticket. You should see the amount I have every time I sit down at home. Anyway, they're not going to take notice of these name tags because people know now not to trust the mainstream media. People know not to trust any accusations and libelous slander of supposedly far-right individuals because they know it's just name tags coming from activists, not journalists. And if I haven't said it enough already, I will reiterate. I can't condone the violence and the criminal actions that's happened in Ireland. But as I said, I completely understand why they've done that. I'll be brutally honest, if I was pushed over the edge, and my kids were not being looked after, I probably would end up doing some of the shit they've done. And they'd probably have to get 6 or 7 men, or women if they can't find any men. I'm sure they have a lot of those actually. Women, that is. Anyway, they would have to get a whole bunch of people just to try and stop me. Because as you've seen, I'm not exactly small in size, am I? I've got enough weight in me to tip the scales of justice. I've got enough bulk to put the Hulk to shame. And when it comes down to politics, I can't exactly say I'm a heavyweight yet because I haven't really entered politics truly, as in a party. But I tell you what, I've got more heavyweight than Mike fucking Tyson, I swear to God. Who said they invented a new weight category for me? Shut up, you. Fucking hell. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, if I was down there in their shoes, I probably would do the exact same thing. I don't blame these guys at all. And bear in mind, this is a direct message now to Keir the Traitor Starmer. You might want to take note of this shit, because what's happened in Ireland could very easily happen in the United Kingdom. Right now, we already know that Ireland is about to explode. Ireland is about to lose their shit. And then it is going to be all-out war in that country, quite frankly. And much as that's the case for Ireland, it could easily erupt here in the United Kingdom too. Just like that. Because Keir the Traitor Starmer has created his own little tinderbox here in the United Kingdom. He has constantly slandered English patriots. He has now decided to label practically 80% of the fucking country as terrorists. Meanwhile, he's rolling out the red carpet for the real terrorists and the real criminals that are coming over here from the third world shitholes that they spawned from. But he wants to sit here and call us all far right and terrorists. Meanwhile, the real jihadists, the real Islamic scumbags, the real terrorists, they're all flooding over here in their droves to claim, in Anjem Choudhury's words, jihadi seekers allowance. Mass immigration is completely unsustainable. Never mind Islamic immigration, because obviously there is both of those kinds going on right now. But mass immigration we can't put up with. We're literally having to build a house every 2 fucking minutes, if not more like every 90 seconds now. Sorry, B came along. But we're having to build a house like every 90 seconds just to be able to put... Stroke number 1, to put up with the population increase. Now that doesn't sound like common sense to me. As I've said before, if we decided to send these people that are invading our island illegally over to Russia, since Keir the Traitor Starmer is so eager to start World War III, surely then we would kill many birds with one stone. Almost think it was a grenade launcher. We would literally solve a number of issues. First and foremost, we'd reduce the population in this country, which means less of a strain on our economy. Second is because we're deporting all the illegals and the foreign criminals, we would then make our streets safer, number 1, and number 2, it would be, again, cheaper to hold up the English people. Number 3, you are making sure that national security isn't endangered because of the jihadis that are in this country. At least 39,000 people, from what I understand, on the Islamic terror watch list, not in jail. Not in jail. But before I go any further into this, there was something that just cropped up into my mind, which I should have mentioned a few minutes ago. This whole, if you talk about immigration and how we're being replaced, I mentioned that they effectively refer to that as extreme right-wing ideology. However, what I didn't realise, it was actually Prevent who put that up. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, Prevent, that surely rings a bell, doesn't it? Well, just don't start making me go into karaoke. Anyway, this does ring a bell, because if you recall, these are the same people who were about as effective as a wet fart in the wind. Same people who actually paid a visit to Axel Radaku Banana, you know, the person who went into a dance studio and butchered 3 innocent girls, tried to butcher more of them, stabbed one girl 120 fucking times. Prevent did not prevent him from committing that atrocious act. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. They had every chance to stop this subhuman from going out of his way to murder innocent girls, God rest their souls. And he had produced enough ricin that he could wipe out 10,500 people. Prevent had every chance to stop that boy from going out and doing what he did. But they chose to say there's nothing wrong with him. I wonder if they would have done the same if it was a white man doing it to the opposite kinds of people. The fact that they willingly let this boy do what he did, it not only shows their incompetence, it shows the complete failure of this organisation. Like I said, they have the same effectiveness as a wet fart in a wind. These are the same people who are putting out the guidelines saying that if we mention about illegal immigration, how we are concerned with the potential replacement of old whitey for people from third world shitholes, that we must be terrorists with an extreme right-wing ideology. No, we're not terrorists. We are people who are concerned about their country, much like the Irish people were concerned about theirs in Ballymena. But what I think is truly sad is it wouldn't surprise me at this point if the Prime Minister of Ireland decides he's going to bring in the army to try and stop the indigenous folk from being able to protest. I think that's what scares me more than anything. The fact that they would probably brush this all under the carpet and say, oh, there's nothing wrong with mass immigration and wanting to replace the white working people with people that are intolerant of our societies, or the Irish people's societies in this case, and have as much respect for that country as I do for salads. And I've probably given Keir the traitor Starmer an idea now, quite frankly, but the way I slice this is they can't expect the Irish people to just stay quiet and accept their replacement. Clearly these people have shown they've got a bigger pair of balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, than most of the people in the United Kingdom who still haven't decided yet that enough is enough. What this effectively comes down to is the Irish people are making a stand. They're making a stand and basically defending their country from a Prime Minister who is effectively a traitor. Oh, and another thing the media wanted to try and say is that this riot that's happening in Ballymena, they want to claim that it's basically racially motivated. No, it's not. It is not racially motivated. Migrants are not a race. They're a type of people that basically they want to emigrate from one place to another. They're not a race like Caucasians, Hispanics, Asians, just to name a few. That would be like saying that white working class men are a race because of what type of people they are. No, they're not a race. They are a class of people based on their backgrounds, based off of what situations they're in and how they're effectively living their lives. So likewise, these migrants, these fortune seekers, and some of them worse still are criminals or terrorists. These people are not a race. Bear that in mind. Now, if people went out of their way to say, like, all these immigrants are black or whatever, then yeah, you could say that's racism. Fair enough. But I don't see any Irish people saying that. Do you? Unless I've been living under the rock for the last 30 fucking years. What this is, more than anything, is they are trying to make excuses for the replacement of the Western cultures. They are making excuses and trying to justify the removal of white people. And in the worst case scenario, that means Islamic people. But what the left don't understand is, as I've said before, what do you think is going to happen if the right wing get replaced? Let's say, for the sake of argument, all the right wing people get replaced. Who do you think they'll target next? There's only one group of people left. The leftoids. And I'm as serious as a heart attack when I say that this could happen in the United Kingdom as well, because of how high the tensions are in this place. You could literally cut the stroke number 2, the air with a knife. The tension, that is. All it takes at this point is one spark, and this country will be just like Ireland. If more people actually got off their asses instead of watching football or what have you, or if more people would stop going to the games and instead focus on how they're going to repatriate their country, and I'm just as guilty myself, because obviously I'm a big video gamer at heart, then I guarantee you we would have turned this shit show around in an instant. There wouldn't be any shot that the English people would not have removed people like Keir, the traitor, Starmer from office. There is no way that they would have allowed the continual mass immigration from the from the Middle East. One thing is for certain, Keir, the traitor, Starmer needs to watch his back now. He needs to understand that, as I said, this country is literally a tinderbox right now. One spark, this whole country could, as I said, follow in Ireland's footsteps. This place will go up like a powder keg. Just like that. Thank you. And exactly the same way as I've described it in Ireland, they can only blame themselves if it does end up sparking a violent revolution in the United Kingdom. They can't sit there and say, oh, well, it's the Tories' fault, or it's the far right's fault, because Keir the traitor Starmer has had every opportunity to try and fix this problem. Instead, he has decided to side with the WEF. He has decided to serve his masters. He's said he'd rather be in Davos than in Westminster. He's decided to say that he would do all he can to protect the Muslim community, rather than what he should be doing, which is protecting the whole of fucking England, quite frankly. Poor girls in there. Breaking and entering, I am. No, sorry, something broke in there. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, this country is on the verge of an eruption. It is on the verge of just losing its mind. Lovely. And Keir the traitor Starmer wants to focus on protecting the invaders. He wants to protect the terrorists. He wants to protect the people who are intolerant of us. Now, to be clear, this isn't every Muslim, but who are the predominant terrorists in this country? Who are the ones who are committing the mass child sexual exploitations? That would be Islam. Not Asians, like that silly mayor of a copper tried to say. It is predominantly Pakistani Muslims. And I'll tell you one thing, if I ended up becoming MP of Norwich, first thing I'd be doing is I'd remove those bloody mosques, because they have basically become havens for Islam to preach its hatred, to indoctrinate those who are too gullible to believe anything other than the word of Islam, or rather the Quran, the book that preaches violence and death and war. If you want to practice Islam in your own homes, perfectly fine. But you need to be reminded, this is an English country, this is a Christian country. It is not an Islamic country. If you want Sharia law, if you want Islamic law, go back to the third world shitholes that you came from. Well, I think this is the closest I'm going to get to holding a 44 Magnum, isn't it? Let me tell you a little story about that, actually. So we can at least put some positivity and a little bit of hilarity and comedy in this. Because obviously I don't want too much negativity. So, let me tell you a story. So, there was actually a story about not so much a tub of ice cream, but a white chocolate magnum. So, I used to live a bit further away from the city centre, but I ended up somehow sneaking out of the house without alerting my family or anyone, which is quite an achievement. I mean, I must have had 100 fucking levels in stealth, much like in Skyrim. Anyway, I snuck out the house. I went down to the newsagents. I went down the Reefham Road, and basically there's like a roundabout where the Bull Inn is at, but alongside the diagonally opposite corner, I think it is. I went into the newsagents, bought myself white chocolate magnum, with my own money, of course. Came back, and I didn't eat it on the way home, because that would have been too fucking easy. No. I decided to wait until my mum came along, and she wanted to play on her PC and what have you, and I sat because in the place we were at, there was the chair for the desktop that she was using, and then there was a chair just behind it, bottom right. So basically what I decided to do was I decided to take the magnum out and start eating it right in fucking front of her, going, this is so good. Oh my god. And it was so fucking evil of me. I'm kind of ashamed of it now, but not really. But basically, when she heard me eating that shit, her literal first response was, "You better have bought me one, you fucking cunt." And then all I heard after I told her no was, "You fucking bastard. You fucking bastard. Mum, like, you fucking bastard." Like, it just... I should be ashamed of doing that shit, but... Oh, man. We were big Magnum enjoyers back in the day, quite frankly. That was the way I like to put that. Who said they're not surprised? Shut up, you. I mean, I'd come off of it a little bit. Obviously, I'm still having it now, but obviously that's a little story to lighten the mood a little bit. But we need that, quite frankly. We need something ice cold to chill the tensions, to stop the tensions from blowing off like the cap on this fucking thing. Oh, there we go. Much better. Don't worry, this will be consumed off the video, because I'm not going to torture you that badly. Not like I did my mum. Anyway, the fact of the matter is we need something to chill those tensions, because right now, if we continue down the way we are, as I said, there is no way in hell that there won't be a violent revolution in this country. And as I said, I don't want that. Tommy Robinson doesn't want that. Richard Inman doesn't want that. All the big names don't want that. But the cold, bitter truth, and not just the ice cream, is the fact that because of who is leading this country, Keir the Traitor Starmer is doing everything in his power to provoke the public. He honestly thinks that if he provokes the public and gets that uprising that he wants, he thinks that he will still be in power, he'll be able to bring in draconian laws, he'll be able to impose martial law. But he fails to understand that what's happening over in Ireland, that'll be a drop in a bucket in comparison to what will happen here in the United Kingdom, I'd like to think. There are hundreds of thousands of supporters of Tommy Robinson who, while they may not want this type of approach, I reckon some of them won't hesitate to jump on the wagon and be like the opening scene of Skyrim, though minus the beheading, and it's more along the lines of, we're taking back the Empire. That's the way to look at it. I don't think there are as many people who would willingly shirk away from their civic duty to their country, quite frankly. I think he will be very unpleasantly surprised at the sheer number of people who will rise up and overthrow him. Because that's the thing. It's not going to be a few hundred people. It's not even going to be a couple of thousand people. It's going to be in the tens of thousands bare minimum, more likely hundreds of thousands, all taking to the street because they will realise that this will effectively be their last chance to save their country from a complete dictator, or again, maybe I was right first time, the rent boys and all, but he will basically face a massive revolution, the likes of which the United Kingdom has never seen before. It will be, bare minimum, tens of thousands. And do you think he's got the army to stop that? Do you honestly think that he's going to be able to stop that many people coming along and dragging him, kicking and screaming if necessary, out of 10 Downing Street? There ain't any way in hell, man. No fucking way. They will do everything they can to make sure they corner Starmer. They will do everything they can. I don't think they'll want to kill him, because I think they'll want him to face trial. And I personally want to see him face trial as well, quite frankly. I want to see him face trial. I want him to be found guilty of treason and treachery against the English people. And then after that, the death penalty be brought back and he be hung from the gallows. That, I think, may not be the end of the problems, but it would certainly solve a massive one for the time being. It would act as a pacifier, if you will, because then we wouldn't have the worst Prime Minister in English history ruling over us. Sure, you could say, well, Rachel Thieves and Angela Rayner would be just as bad, but I don't think they would dare be as stupid as Keir the Traitor Starmer as far as wanting to call everyone who is concerned a terrorist. I don't think they would want to risk provoking the English lion again, because they would have an absolute hell of a time trying to keep themselves afloat. They would flounder very, very quickly. As I said, I don't want it to come down to a violent revolution, but the cold, bitter truth is, if Keir the Traitor Starmer keeps this up, there is no way that there won't be a spark sooner or later that will set this country alight. Just like that. The bottom line is what happened in Ballymena. What happened there should be taken as a massive sign for the United Kingdom. The Irish people had the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to be able to go out onto the streets and officially declare they've had enough. If their Prime Minister in Ireland wants to continue to refuse the Irish people, he does so at his own risk. Because I am nearly certain that some of these people might go all the way. Some of these people might try to take the Prime Minister's life, which, again, I don't want, but I will completely understand why these people have decided to go down that route. I probably wouldn't do it myself, but I will understand why those people might, because they will have had enough and they will have decided that they need to do something that is decisive, if you will. That should scare any career politician in power, because all it takes, as I said, is one spark. Bang! You're in shit street. Keir the Traitor Starmer, do well to remember that, because what's happened to Ireland could happen here. It's already happening to a lesser extent polar opposite side with Trump and the LA riots. And they have guns. But Trump is handling it. How do you think you'd handle a revolution, Starmer? Something tells me not very well. I don't think you would have anything on what Trump is doing right now. You wouldn't even come close to being able to stop a revolution. That's the truth. We can be very resourceful. We can be very determined, and I'm nearly certain there are some people who are Tommy Robinson supporters who have a few skeletons, or more aptly, a few weapons hiding in their closets, and they wouldn't be afraid to use them. What will you do? Bring the army in? Good luck with that. As I said before many times, you'd have 20% of the army at your disposal, if you're lucky. And that's if they even want to fight for you, Keir the traitor Starmer. Over half the army wanted to support the people in the case of a coup against Johnson. And he's far more popular than you. What do you think's going to happen if you have a coup on your hands? You probably won't answer that question, will you? Because you think yourself as untouchable. You don't take accountability, you don't take responsibility, you lie through your teeth, you persecute your people, you allow illegal immigrants to invade our country, you prioritise protecting a death cult over your own citizens. So yeah, I would not be surprised if your pretension is like way up there, quite frankly. I would not be surprised if you literally thought yourself as untouchable. Well, there's going to be someone who drags you back down to reality. And when the reality hits, it could be the end of your entire career.